Entire class skips optional early start to lab. We were given an hour for lunch and we're going to take all of our time, by user meekly enthusiasm. TLDR, surgeons wants us to come to a lab scheduled for 12 an hour early at 11. As a class, we decided to come at 12. Got reprimanded, then the dean backed us up. I'm a second-year veterinary student. This is the time when we start our live surgery labs. We work in teams of 3 students, a surgeon, an assistant, an anesthetist, and are obviously overseen by certified specialists, anesthesiologists and surgeons, and many experienced vet nurses as well. We have lectures 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. Lunch is 11 to 12. Our lab begins at 12 p.m. sharp. However, we were told we have the option to come to lab early and begin. It became very clear after the first week this is an expectation, not an option, that we will skip lunch, or eat during lecture, and come straight to the OR. During one lab, at 11:50 a.m. the anesthesiologist yelled at a student for a few minutes in the pharmacy area, while getting drugs for lab, for not having his patient ready and waiting in the induction room. 10 minutes for lab even begins. And this group was set to induce during the last wave, normally 1 to 1.5 plus hours into lab. There's no reason to be an hour early when your group is final wave, being on time is sufficient, and they were actually still early. Our class has been getting berated by this anesthesiologist as well as some of the surgeons in this lab. Just as one example, a student surgeon asked for help. A surgical resident came over from another patient to help, and she was now not sterile. The resident told the student she was holding her forceps wrong, proceeded to grab them from her hands, and then made the student leave her patient on the table to rescrub, regown, and reglove, and open a new instrument pack. All because she wanted to ask a question. This is a common technique they will use on us when we've done something incorrect to get us to remember it next time. Well, the entire class is fed up with this. Our class called a meeting about it, and we all decided we are all going to start showing up to lab at 11:50 to 11:55 a.m. Only 5 to 10 minutes early. Not for petty reasons either, but it's a matter of patient safety as well. Several students have fainted from skipping lunch to go and operate instead. We were given 11 to 12 for lunch and we're going to take all of our time. So, that's what we did. At 11:40 a.m. one of the surgeons came to our lecture hall, where the majority of us stay and eat lunch, and asked us why we're not in lab yet. A student at the front of the room said simply, "Lab begins at 12 noon. The surgeon gave us a long spell about professionalism and how we are being inappropriate and putting our patients at risk, and she left. The OR is a 2-minute walk from the lecture hall, so we finished lunch and all showed up around 11:55. The clinicians were very mad about it, and reported our class to the dean, and so the dean called a school-wide meeting about it. Some of our classmates spoke eloquently about our reasons and our actual patient safety concern, turning it right back on the clinicians citing patient safety. And, the school claims to care immensely about student mental health, since this profession has one of the highest suicide rates and our own class even suffered a loss, and cutting our break/lunch is no way to support us. Beyond that, the schedule says we begin at 12, and we are still showing up a few minutes early to ensure we can begin right at 12. Ultimately, the dean just released a statement saying they cannot force us to begin lab an hour early, and we will start at 12 when the dean's office scheduled lab to begin. It's a small win for us, certainly we will face backlash, but we have a break to eat at least. Our class is known for not putting up with BS from the school. We got a dinosaur of a professor fired for racist comments she made to a student in the middle of lecture. After she had terrorized students at this school for decades, she forgot out lectures were automatically recorded on Zoom during COVID. We're hated by the clinicians, but at least the classes behind us are having a slightly better time. Edit. About the fainting thing. Yes, from skipping a single meal most healthy adults shouldn't faint. Add on top of that the mental stress of operating for the first few times, the heat from the surgical lights, being covered head to toe in a non-breathable sterile barrier which traps in your body heat, a mask putting that heat back on you face, having to stand relatively still in one place for hours, no access to water for hours, you can't move your arms out of the sterile field so limited/no stretching, plus the sight of blood being a common trigger of vasovagal syncope, and you have plenty of lightheaded or fainting students. Skipping food is added insult to injury. When you last ate at 6 a.m., it's now 4 p.m., you haven't had water since noon, and you're overheating, and stressed. Not to mention vet school is a concentration of type A high-achieving perfectionists with chronic stress from constant high-stakes exams, failure out of the program, some of which are right before you go off into operating or maybe occurring the next day. Rampant anxiety and depression, sleep deprivation from our schedule and or insomnia. I know several classmates with disordered eating or full-blown EDS. It's not merely an isolated incident of skipping lunch one time. Picky Karen does not want to listen to my explanation, by user Wasting Tamawe. I used to work at a Tex-Mex restaurant, you know the ones that charge like $12 for a taco. I had a customer come in and she asked for 2 quesadillas that was gluten-free, cheese-free, vegan-free, hell it everything else free. I told her everything we normally put on it and she said no to everything. So basically, all she wanted was our gluten-free wrap with lettuce and tomato. Okay, that is fine, but if I put this like that into the system it will be $12 a piece. I can just get you a lettuce wrap with tomato and it will be $2.25. I was even going to heat it up a little, the bread, for her. I tried 2 times to explain this to her and she interrupted me and said I know what I want. I want the quesadilla this way and if you can't understand this, then go to the manager. So I understood her, got it made the way that she wanted and brought it out. She gave me a smirk and was like, see, I knew you could do it. That made my blood boil and I was in shock that she was so dense. Once the bill came she grabbed it and before I could walk away she yelled excuse me so loud the surrounding tables all stopped. Yes ma'am, what can I help you with? I asked. Why the hell is it $24 for my 2 quesadillas? Because the price on the menu is $12 each. Yep, but I didn't get any of the included items. Yes, but you ordered 2 quesadillas. Therefore that is what you got charged. She of course spoke to the manager who sided with me and the lady paid her bill, the full $24 for those quesadillas. I did not however get a tip. Call the cops? If you insist, by user because life ice. Many summers ago I worked front desk at a regional headquarter of a multinational corporation. For a visitor to be granted entrance, they had to prove that A, they have an appointment, and B, they are who they claim to be. Now the first part was easy, no need to show us your email, just give us a name and we'd call that person to confirm. The second required some sort of ID though, driver's license, employee badge, something like that. Or your inviter would have to meet you out here and confirm to us in writing. Note that we didn't keep your document, we just needed to put down your name and take a real quick glance of your face and photo. Most of our visitors had no problem with the protocol. Some would voice their frustration but still comply. Well, not this special guy. He got aggressive and demanded an explanation about the need for an ID when he was standing right here. Couldn't seem to grasp it however we tried, and he got increasingly louder. He didn't want his inviter to meet him outside because this is wrong. Security was ready to see him out when he screamed at us to call the cops, because we needed to be arrested and taught a lesson on civil rights. Calls were made, cops came quickly, and he went out in cuffs. Turned out they already had a warrant, just weren't in a hurry to get him. Icing on the cake was that he was here for a job interview. Find me a parking ticket when I have proof of purchase, by user rudimental. This happened the other year, when lockdown was serious. My mate tested positive for COVID, so I did the proper thing of cancelling my holiday and isolating for 2 weeks. This was right at the start before self-testing was available, so I just followed the guidelines. It was a very cold fortnight. So cold, that at some point, the adhesive on my parking permit fell from the windscreen into the footwell. When I finally returned to the world, I go to my van, and see a parking ticket for the previous night. My van hadn't moved in 2 weeks, and the same parking attendant every day, just following the rules, hits me with a £75 fine. I call the company up and get them to check their payment record, my £25/month permit was in date, and they have my vehicle details. They told me the rules on the signs are clear, and if you don't display a ticket, you will receive said fine. No ifs or buts. I tried to fight it further and further, going nowhere. With my stubbornness, it ended up costing me nearly £200. Then it dawned on me. If they're not checking a system and just looking for a permit, why am I still paying for it? I called up and cancelled my monthly renewal, and kept hold of the permit. That was about 21 months ago. It's so bleached from the sun you can hardly make it out. But it's valid in every way that matters to the parking attendant, and I keep saving an extra £25/month. Want us to look for problems to repair? Okay, we'll look for problems and repair them, by Userable Relationship 6808. This happens when I worked at the post office years ago. I was one of about 40 mechanics and electronic technicians on the 3 p.m. to 11:30 shift whose job it was to fix the machines used to process mail. It was a huge facility with thousands of people working there. This may not seem believable today, but first-class mail had to be received, processed, and shipped out within 24 hours. Letters and packages start arriving in the afternoon. Sacks of letters and packages are placed on conveyor belts, stamped mail is cancelled, all mail and sorted on machines, placed in trays for shipment to their destination, and placed on trucks for shipment directly to the destination post office or the airport. Mail came between 3 p.m. and 8 p.m. and went out around 5 a.m. Up to 2.5 million stamped letters per day during Christmas, but usually around 600k, plus metered mail and parcels. Every weekday. Our job was basically to sit around, wait for something to break, and fix it ASAP so it would run to the end of the shift. The day shift could do a more permanent fix if necessary. That was our job. Wait for some machinery to break and fix it. We sat in small groups near our machines and read, gossiped, or did whatever. One day, some bigwig saw us and didn't like us sitting around doing nothing. Word came from on high and we were told to patrol our areas and fix the broken equipment. Our chairs were taken away so we could not sit down. Now comes the malicious compliance. We did as we were told. We patrolled the building. If anyone saw something broken, we shut down the equipment and fixed it. According to safety regulations, we were required to lock out the power source with our individual padlocks and rope off the area. Hey you 50 clerks, you need to move from under this conveyor belt so we can replace it. Of course, that disables part of the 6-mile-long system, so productivity is lost. Letter sorting machines with 14 clerks are shut down for minor repairs. Stamp cancelling machines? The same. The productivity slumped and hundreds of clerks were required to work overtime that night and morning to make up for equipment being shut down for repairs. I'm sure the first night it cost tens if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in overtime. After 3 days, our chairs returned and it was business as usual.